Everybody. It's lovely to see all of you. Nice full room. This is very different from speaking at PHP UK last year, because A, it was the first pretty much worldwide event that happened post-COVID, so there was like less numbers, and then I was speaking before the closing keynote, and a massive storm happened, and about 5 people turned up, and I was on the main stage up there. So now I get to speak to people. Thank you for coming. I'm Jim Seconde. Hello, everybody. Here is my things. I've just amended this because now I have the elephant thing. If you like what you hear, say, hey Jim, I like what you hear. If you hate what you hear, because you might also do that, because I'm going to be very noisy, by the way. I'm sorry for the front row. I'm going to be very noisy now, running around a lot. Yeah, if you hate what you hear, also tell me. But because I'm in a department called Developer Relations, I thrive on your feedback, whether it's good or bad. If it's bad, then it means that I can be less rubbish. So please tell me. For anyone that doesn't know, the PHP social Mastodon account is run by Ben Ramsey, I think, and there's quite a lot of people on there. It's a great way of, it's less of the noise of whatever's happening with that right now, and you get, I really like it. So there's a lot of people that's been surprisingly more sort of popular than I think. If you're on LinkedIn, because that does actually work, then you can check me out there. And then there's my, don't go to that, because you'll just see unfinished side projects everywhere. Right, I am a senior developer advocate, which sounds very posh. It basically is like I'm a PHP developer at Varnish. If you haven't said hello at the booth, come and say hello at the booth. We've got one elephant left, limited edition elephant. Come and see us at the booth, and you can sign up. And before the closing keynotes, we will give it away. There's also a coupon code if you want to check out what we do, which is communications APIs, so sending SMS, sending WhatsApp, 2-factor authentication, video integrations, things like that. Come and check it out. You can also reclaim the coupon code there, and you can get €10 credit for your account. So, let's go. If my clicker works. What I like to do is do sort of an outline of what, because this talk is, I imagine everyone's reading and going, what's he going on about? What's this going to be about? So I'll just give a quick sort of quick outline. What is performance-driven development? Why should we be doing it? And how should we be doing it? That's the sort of the takeaway thing, right? Not sure if I've thought this through properly. Hang on a minute, let me think. Okay. Oh no. Right. Okay, so you got the question, right. What's performance-driven development, Jim? Go to my note now. I don't think I've thought this through very much, actually, because I'll be honest. No idea. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for coming for my talk. I've been Jim Seconde, and any questions from the floor? I am told in my, when I did this talk in Austin, I didn't have an earpiece, so now I can actually do this. I'm told in my earpiece, through our producer, just roll with it, okay? I'm told that there's Q&As from the online chat room. There's no online chat room, just nod. There's some questions from the chat room, okay. Well, whatever. Put them up then. What are they then? Okay, look, you seem troubled. What's on your mind, Jim? All right. Bit judgy. All right. Okay, I'll tell you, because you want to know, right? Otherwise, you hadn't done it, or I could start answering it and people start leaving. I don't know. I'll tell you what's on my mind. I am bored of hearing these things. Number one, hands up in the room. You're all going to do it. Come on. Who's heard that? Come on. Don't be shy. There we go. Come on. And you can say this if you go on, I don't know, Reddit's programmer humor or something. It's like, lol, PHP doesn't scale or whatever. For anyone else, don't go, especially if you're a junior coming into the industry, don't go on programmer humor in Reddit. It's supposed to be funny. It's not funny, so it's not really doing its job unless you want to sound like an 11-year-old boy. But whatever, you can do if you want to. But everyone there is very, very sure of themselves, and they think they're very funny. And the thing is, you can say something like that. That's fine. It's just that, you can be wrong. But there's other things that I hear, like, I read an article from 2012, which is PHP, a fractal of bad design. If anyone wants to see this, it's a very long blog post that's very ranty and very boring, and you're like, I think you should be spending your time doing something more constructive. Most of the things in it that are wrong have been fixed, or you will never touch ever. It's like that sort of, I'm going to interview with somewhere, and they're like, can you do an abstract syntax tree shaking thing? And you're like, no, I can't. But also, you want to give me some CSS and move this that way, so I'm never going to do this in my job. You know what I mean? So people bring that up. That's still brought up. It's amazing. This was this was said to me about 4 months ago, and they said the thing is that the only thing, because 75% of the web, whatever it is that they turn up, WordPress is the only thing that's actually relevant in the PHP community. I think, core people that run Symfony and Laravel that are here today probably might go, not sure about that. But I mean, like saying PHP doesn't scale. For anyone that doesn't know, Slack was actually written, the backend was written originally in PHP, and then I made a joke about it, and it went viral, and then some bloke just said, like, actually, I think you'll find it's now Python microservices. You're like, yes, but that wouldn't be very funny if I said that, would it? So, why would it? But it was built in PHP, that was the point. And now just go back into your corner. The thing is you can be, it's like Slack with that. I mean, it's fine, you could be wrong. You could be wrong about that as well. I don't know, if you want to look like an idiot, sure, 1 + 1 is 5, whatever, mate. Look, there's also other people doing this, and it comes down to PHP is old-fashioned and no one uses it anymore. So now we're going to do Rust and Go, and there's actually I hope there's no Rust stations in the house, because there's literally a conference about Rust happening right now, and it's the next one. So, sorry, everyone. Golang, well, actually, and Nuno's done a talk about Rust. It is actually good, but it's like it's the next big thing. So now we're going to use like Remix because JavaScript moves at 6 billion miles an hour. And now, I use this thing, the monkey thing, I can use that because the person that purchased it then lost it in the blockchain and doesn't own the rights to it anymore. But do they own the rights to it anymore? Who knows? I don't know. If you want to spend your money on rubbish, go for it. Sausage language is the new thing. I'm bored of these things. And this is where we come into things like performance. So it's 2022. You can tell if I gave this talk last year. It's 2023, and I got the date wrong, which reminds me of someone having an argument with ChatGPT this morning about what year it was. Go and check it out on Twitter. It's really funny. This was on, like, I don't know, Core or something, and they're like, don't pick Laravel, pick Django, because apparently your investors judge you on your web framework that you use. It's fine, you can be wrong. You can be wrong if you want to be. It means you look like an idiot, but you can be wrong. Investors don't care, they care about products, not what's running on it. And is it fast? Like, that's the tech decisions, they don't care. We need to get away from this. But we are getting away from it, because this is what I want to sort of instill in people that don't come from PHP land. You probably are, this is PHP UK, but it's this ancient opinion about PHP being this legacy thing that's old-fashioned or something. Things are changing in PHP 8. It's speed, and it's the JIT compiler. Now we have native fibers in there. We have open source. I didn't put Roadrunner in there. I probably should have done that. But things like Laravel Octane running on top of it. We have really super fast asynchronous stuff. It's React PHP, if you want a good example of sort of seeing that. It's a shame that Marcel couldn't actually make this this conference, but check out the ngrok thing that he wrote in PHP. It's in React, and it's amazing. We've got a new asynchronous framework called X Framework. These are modern things that are coming in. The take-up of test-driven development. I know that it sounds like, it feels like not enough of us are doing TDD, otherwise people like Mark wouldn't be doing workshops to try and get people to do it, and Chris Hart just hasn't spent his entire life basically moaning at you to do it. But the thing is that it is being adopted. In my work every day in the last 3 jobs I've done, TDD has been there. It's becoming more commonplace. We're getting there. PHP Unit 10 came out recently, but also we have a new testing framework called PEST. Things are moving on. We've got the quality, our code quality tools in our pipeline are so good now. PHP Stan is ridiculous. It's magic. And SAM PHP as well. And these static analysis tools will just do things that make it almost semi-compiled when you write stuff, which is mad. The individual Laravel and I took these two because they're the two biggest, right? The ecosystems are growing. There are new developers coming into both of those ecosystems. We are growing as a language. Things like PHP CS and Slevo mats, when it comes to linting, are brilliant. They can be part of the pipeline. And talking of the pipeline, now we have GitHub Actions, GitHub CI, all these kind of stuff. Yeah, okay, they're not PHP things, but mixed with all of this, this is a very, very modern thing to tool and write software in. But where does performance come into this? And that's what I'll be digging into, because it can do, but there's also, we've got a bit of a sort of an issue about these things. Right, next question then. Sounds cooked up. All right. Can you give us a real life story as an example? Let me think. Am I prepared for this? Am I prepared for this, Jim? Yes, I think I probably can think of a story. Let's look at something like this. This unnamed thing here is a proprietary CRM that's like the heritage of the old stuff from like 2004, those kind of things. And I won't name it. It has, I won't say what underpins it because that forms part of this slide, but the thing is like, I worked in an agency, they're like, hey, everybody, ship us the thing, and it was a massive enterprise thing. Right, so number one, in this agency, we use this. So how is that designed to then extend off it because we're building a custom piece of software? And the answer is this. Hooks everywhere. No actual inversion of control, no kernel, just hooks, just hook into the thing whenever you want. Here is a hook, here is a hook. What about that plugin? Like, oh, well, I've overridden you, blah, blah, blah. Like, okay, so those are the hooks. And then the rest of the makeup of this elsewhere looks like this. So you've got MySQL in the back end, and then Solar to sort of, Apache Solar was put on top of it, but actually the way they wired this together was that it used Solar as the single source of truth instead of the database with a caching layer in the middle of it. So it was like, why isn't my thing working? And it's like, the caching there, and it goes in there, and the Solar goes on there, and like, okay, well this isn't good, this is a bit of a mess. And then we've got these caching layers here and custom Redis instances plugged into it. And then for some reason we've chosen UI as the front end. If you've ever come across that, I'm sorry. It's absolutely appalling. I know that's shaming UI, but no one's used it anymore because it's so ridiculously complex. So like, right, we're gonna ship this to the client? What's going on? And the CRM's like, I think people are complaining about our software, so we need to do something. Right, okay. What are we gonna do to make this better? I think if we do something like this, it might make performance better, perhaps. Maybe if I go and get my crowbar, there we go, right. There's the crowbar, and oh, okay, right, that's going to fix some of it. Okay, right, fine. So that's on top of the hooks, so we don't have the hooks anymore. Now we've got Symfony underpinning it in the event system, but then it turns out the event system also works with the hooks. So then you've got the hooks and Symfony, and like, right, so this is going to make debugging fun. So like, when it comes to the caching layer with the database, we've still got problems. Like, how are we going to do this? And so instead, at the agency, we're like, okay, let's fix the problem then. Go and get my crowbar. Here it is. There we go. That was shipped to production in a multinational corporation that most of you will know. That was the solution. This is about performance-driven development. If we want to do performant code, and that's the solution, this sausage mess of spaghetti, we're not doing things right, are we? So, we've got to change things up. Go on, question then. Show me some bad code then, fancy pants. Okay, right. My previous job, I was at a Laravel partner, and we got a lot of consultancy work, and stuff would come in, and let me tell you, everybody, some of the code that I saw where people said, hello, please, come and help us. You look at it and go, oh, yes, you do need help. Because the first thing I saw on one of these things, I've obviously, for NDA reasons, have obscured like various bits of information, but that was the first thing that we saw in the routing file. So like, oh no, hit debug users because we're going to need to debug it because we don't have access to the database. Dump out. This isn't even about performance. This is just, what's this? And to be honest with you, when I see things like this, I hate this code as much as I hate Jar Jar Binks, and I really hate Jar Jar Binks, okay? I really do. Can't really convey how much I don't like Jar Jar Binks. Right, let's get onto the actual code of the performance bit. Get me some users and put them out into a dashboard. That's real. You think this thing about performance is like, yeah, but people aren't really that bad. This is real. Let's look at them. Number 1. That's not good. Why are you getting everything? Like, yes, get me everything for the database because they'll need all of the things. I think usually the result of this was supposed to be about, I don't know, like 25 users or something. Get me all of the things. Like, okay, you want 25 users with some conditions, but instead I will give you 1,000,000 rows and then you can sort through them. Next up, well, I mean, the for each is already created, like, okay, we're in n+1 territory. Now we're going to take out the settings from the relation, which we didn't get in the first place, and then we're going to get them, okay? Well, that's not good. And then we're going to loop through the settings that we've already got out, and then this happens. I'm going to take the setting, get the contact back out, and then with the settings, I'm then going to... What? What are you doing? What's this? And honestly, I hate this code as much as I hate Jar Jar Binks, and I really hate Jar Jar Binks. Can't stand him. Can't believe that film came out in 2001, and it still haunts me. Oh, right, go on, questions. How do we inspire me, Jim, inspire me. Okay, good. Right. So, I went and thought, I'm going to talk to people about this. So I spoke to Thomas at Platform SH, who was also doing work at the moment in Blackfire, and we'll get onto that. I said, what is the biggest thing that you see with enterprise performance? They said, one of the biggest problems that we see is people try to get clever with tooling. That's what you saw before, Fastly, Solar, all bolted on, instead of engineers thinking about the code at the base level that they are writing. Similarly, if any of you have heard of Fathom Analytics, Fathom Analytics does an insane amount of requests in order to do what it does. And one of the things that, go and check out Fathom Analytics blog. It's really, you get some really interesting engineering insights. But the thing that stands out is, you try and do all of these fancy things, and you try and do, this is like people, especially from other languages, like we do this, we've got asynchronous, blah, blah. If you do all of this, it's fine, but the number one problem that you're going to encounter when it comes to performance when you scale up is going to be the bottleneck around your database. Should be sort of like sensible. What have we got? This isn't really a question. It's more of a statement. Oh, no, sorry, mate. Sit down. Not interested. Right, how do we change this? So, let's go into the tooling. Tooling is important. This is how we're going to do it, right? And one of the things that people sort of think of straight away is they think of application performance management. So things like this will come to mind, right? Things like New Relic or Datadog. But the whole performant code as you write it, and then the whole nightmare bolted on thing, this is bolting things on afterwards. This does not help us. This can help us with performance monitoring, but when you want to actually dig into the code that's making things not performant, if it's not front-end caching or whatever, yeah, this can do that, but the actual code itself, that's not going to help us. So, there are two paths that we can take to do this. And the first one, I like to call cheating. Always good. It's cheating because there are two tools out there that will do all of this for you. This probably won't come as a surprise to more senior people in the room, but if you've not heard of them, there is Tideways and there is Blackfire. And like a true engineer, I'm going to tell you advantages and disadvantages because it depends is always the answer. They're cloud-based SaaS. They have CI checks and thresholds and pipelines. You can set everything out. So when you do a pull request and you want to get it merged, one of these tools will then look and go, what is wrong with your code? Is the ORM being used correctly? Are you doing something horrible that should be cached, et cetera, et cetera? These tools are absolutely amazing at doing it. That's why they are what they are. And also, they have recommendation engines. And again, the recommendation engine is amazing. So what it sounds like is I've just sorted out our problem, but I've not sorted out our problem because there are disadvantages. And the disadvantages look like this. First of all, both of them, it's not really, no, I'm not accusing these companies of anything. It's just that naturally, because of the size of these things, there's a focus on enterprise. And that doesn't, so if you've got startups and you're booting something from Symfony Flex or you're using Laravel, this isn't really appropriate. And number one, like when I gave this talk recently in Austin, everybody nodded their head when I said, that is the main problem. They have spent a lot of money making that recommendation engine and the cloud SaaS amazingly good, yes, but because of that, you're not going to get it for free. It costs a lot of money. That's fine. That makes sense. So what I'm saying is from a base level now, we've actually got, that's not an instant path to success depending on your situation. So in that case, we have to take the hard path to doing this. And this is the mindset. And I have to get into the mindset of using things like AWS Infinidash. And I'm not going to explain why that's a cheap joke, but look up AWS Infinidash and what it does. It doesn't do anything, it's a joke. But what I'm trying to say is it's like DevOps practitioning. It's a state of mind. It's process and how you approach things. So as a engineering lead, you have to think of performance, but you need to instill a culture within your team and your juniors on how to do it. So the most important thing when you're doing things in this kind of manual way is you need to set your expectations from your stakeholders of what is fast and what is not fast and what is acceptable and what is not acceptable from a technical point of view. That's the same if you use Blackfire, and it's the same if you use Tideways. You still need to set your threshold. If you have this muddle where no one knows whether it's like what is fast and things like that, it's not going to work. The biggest thing, and I've done this as a junior, the biggest drawback I've seen with performance all the time as a junior was I did not understand properly how to use the ORM. And that's either Doctrine or Eloquent, depending on which, right? I didn't understand the underlying SQL that's being generated. And a lot of people are coming into the industry right now in juniors where they don't understand SQL. They want the ORM to do it for them, but you need to have optimization. It's things like table scans and joins and things. You need to know how these things work. If your juniors don't understand these things, you're heading for performance nightmares. It will happen. And then you've got tech debt, and then you've got to clean it up. Custom cache layers as well. As we saw from the caches before, you've got to be super careful. That's the reason why I've put when to use them. Caches are great. Use them when appropriate, because I've seen them cache all of the things, and you're like, no, no. This, from Varnish's point of view, is very important because we are effectively a third-party API, and our new Verify API that we have, which does two-factor authentication, relies on webhooks that are asynchronous. I have, however, worked at a Shopify agency where all of the way that things were tied together was all synchronous. That was not considered. So they're like, okay, you can buy the thing, you can buy the sausages, but when you buy the sausages, then we also need to make a custom API call to the thing of how many sausages are in the sausage factory and things like that. I'll wait. You're like, really? We're going to wait for what about the response? So not building things asynchronous, I've seen it done all over the place. That's the reason why things like this new API we've got is asynchronous, so that you don't have to wait. But you'd be amazed at how much blocking code people write when they're thinking about things like this. So I've given you two tools of how to do it. I've talked about the mindset. How do we do this with other tooling? And the answer is, of course, yes. Yes, we can. Here's how we do it. Option one. I did not know about this until I found it on Lorna Mitchell's blog, because I find seemingly everything on Lorna Mitchell's blog. I can't speak. XHProf by Tideways. So Tideways took on the original profiler that Facebook wrote, and it is open source. And you can use it for profiling. We'll get onto things like Xdebug, because that has a profiler in a minute. But this is like, I tried it, and I was like, why isn't everybody doing this? This is amazing. Like, look at the fact that you've got the memory hogs where it's actually saying, oh, look, the output buffer there is the biggest thing. This is just what comes out of the box when you're profiling stuff. It's immensely powerful. And I'll talk about how you can still, like, where it comes into part of your culture in a minute. Similarly, though, you have another option, which you may be more familiar. The only problem is with this is that this is, so Xdebug, if you're not using Xdebug, I have one tip for you: use Xdebug. That's it. If you're not using it, go and use it now. Although I could say that, but also Ray is extremely good, which is quite new. The profiler you can run. It's obviously you have to be careful with how you switch it on and off, because if you leave it on in production, good luck. This outputs a cache grind file, which is a type of proprietary file system. Well, it's an open file system. and then you can read it into something. The main thing that you do, this is Kcache grind, which is like a Linux app. Yes, I know it looks like a screen from Jurassic Park. Once you get to know to actually read how this is working, it's immensely powerful. I do like this. It's very sort of like, no, I'm not going to try and understand that. But look at you've got how much execution time is running, and it will identify bottlenecks, particularly usually in things like loops or callbacks. What I'm saying with this tooling is, yes, it's complicated in the kind of chain of where you are in your team. If you're at the top, if you're a senior, if you're experienced, you will be able to start reading these things. You then need to give the power to your juniors to also be able to do this. Once you do that, you will have a superhuman team, and I have seen it done. Trust me, it works. Another thing that I've not seen used out of the box in teams, which is absolutely mind-boggling, if you want something easier as an approach, if you use Laravel or Symfony, it's the debug bars. I was in a team where they're like, I'm gonna say it. They won't be watching this. They actually said, we don't turn on the debug bars because otherwise you won't get experience, because it does it all for you. Don't say that, ever! That's stupid! But you can be wrong if you want to. You can be wrong, it's fine. These are so powerful. I mean, out the box, Symfony's one, for instance. You've got a performance that gives you a proper Gantt chart of how it's running. Then you've got what's going on in your cache. You've got probably most important for me is usually a debugger for Doctrine, for watching how your ORM is being used. When you want to identify things like N+1 problems, it will do it. If you have a setup with whatever it is for your local development environment, like a Docker type thing, and you give it to your juniors and say, all you do is Docker compose up, and then you put this flag in, you switch it on, why isn't everybody doing that? It's mental. And then you tell people, this is what it is, and this is how to read it. Instilling the culture will change how you ship software. Similarly, this is the Laravel one. Yeah, chalk and cheese. So, no, it's the opposite. It's apples and pears or whatever. I'm in London. Sound like a Cockney. So, similarly, you've got here you've got how many queries are being executed by Eloquent, and you've got the most important thing. You can still do it with the Gantt chart stuff. You've got the performance time, right? That should be part of everybody's process, really. And I'm telling you this because I've seen it infinite times where it's not, which is just, I just don't understand. What's the next question? No. Why should we be doing PDD? Thank you. Why should we be doing it? Because it's like, that was part of the questions that I was saying like, right, okay, what is it and why should we be doing it? Why should we be doing it? I think you've probably got the gist now that the thing in developer advocacy that's most important to me is developer experience and leveling up juniors. Those are the things that are the most important. Because I have been a junior at many places, particularly agencies, and they are absolutely, some of them are amazing. Some of them are amazing. I have worked at terrible places, and I've been bullied, and it's not fun. Leveling up your juniors is very important to me, and having this kind of culture levels them up. But for your business side, this was the best one I could get. I'm sorry, it's from March 2016, which actually makes it more poignant. At the end of the day, performance. If you don't have it, people won't use your product. That's it. If you want, there's no business case to be that's complicated here. If you want to ship quality software, it's got to work fast. That's it. And what is it? Something like 3 seconds, 3 seconds to load. And like I said, that's from 2016. So why aren't we doing it? That's why you should be doing it. Performance is key, right? But understanding that you, as a senior, understanding how your code works in a performant way, and then instilling that into your juniors will make your team extremely powerful. And I have seen that done. And if you do it as a lead, this is you being a leader at the top, you then have the respect and you can mentor juniors. That makes you superhuman. And to me, culture around tech is just as important as the software itself. So, let's clean up our sausage factory. What does it look like now then? So I actually run the debug bar on it, and this is real. There's about 2 more records underneath there. So it's like, hey, I want like 10 records. And you're like, okay, I want 10 records. How much is that going to cost me? It's going to cost you 286 queries. It's going to take 11.92 seconds to load. Somebody came to me and said, this is live in production. And I'm like, oh no, you need my help. So, the cleaning up of it, I mean, like, to lots of you that are experienced, this will just, you'll look at it and go, well, that's obvious. But it's not obvious, that's the point. It's obvious to you maybe if you're experienced or senior, but to juniors it isn't. I mean, number one, no pagination in the whole app would be considered. So that's why it was fetching everything, because they're like, but I don't see all the things on the screen, I only see what I want. No understanding of what's happening underneath the hood. So instead, we'll say, give me the contacts with the settings, and then I'm going to do an actual where query on it and say, can phone equal, setting name can phone equals, equals there. Setting, oh, whatever, you can read it. This is the second day of the conference, and as you know, for those who spoke to me at booth, my mum says I talk a lot. And there we go. This is what happens. But that's all I had was the Laravel debug bar and then an understanding of what was happening under the hood. So now it says, I want 10 records, and I will do 4 queries, and it will take 324 milliseconds. That is how you do performance-driven development. It sounds like it's some mysterious thing, and I was going to like wheel out some amazing product and go, I'm going to launch the Varnish Super. It's not. It's just that. That's all it is. Hopefully, some of you go, he's got a point, and some of you will say, that was a waste of my time. Hopefully, it's the former. Congratulations, you're winner. If you want to know what this is from an amazing video game in 2003 called Big Rigs Over the Road Racing. It was created in Russia, and watch a video of it in action. It's amazing. When I say amazing, I like bad things, okay? But congratulations, you've instilled performance-driven development. Well done, you're winner. Yeah, I know, I'm noisy. Can you wrap this on board of your anger? It's not real anger, it's like fake anger, I'm trying to explain my persona here. Let's not do that. I asked 2 questions. What is PDD? So let's answer them. The 2 questions are, what is it and why are you doing it? What is TD? It's a mindset of performance. It's first-class consideration. It's avoiding the classic nightmare, which is shipped all of the things, the 2 things we didn't consider are security and performance. Why would you do that? That's ridiculous. Works on my machine, etc. But also, there's not one bird that can kill all these. There's not one. There's not one stone that can kill all these birds or turn over the turn. I'm talking to yourself now, Jim. Choosing the right process and tooling for you is important. You have to use what is good for you. So when I said, yes, Blackfire and Tideways is expensive, you might come as a consultant into an enterprise project that's massive, and they're like, please fix it, and you can throw money at it. Learning those tools is also difficult because they're not easy to use because they do a lot of stuff well. But choose what is important and works for you because it depends, etc., etc. Why aren't you doing it? Why aren't you doing it? It's quite accusative, like, why aren't you doing it? Shipped it into production, mate. DevOps problem now. I've seen that done quite a lot. I wonder if DevOps people thought when the discipline was coming together, it was just going to be devs going, your problem now. That's one reason. Is like, I don't write the code, and I don't have to think about it. Whatever, you could do it. Instilling these things is not cheap in time or money, but time is probably the biggest factor here. It's complex to do all this, to either set up a big enterprise level thing and then set up Datadog or New Relic for the APM sort of side of it. And it's complicated to set up if you're going to do it from the mindset because you have to train all of your juniors in fairly advanced tooling, right? So that's why people go, I've worked at agencies where they like ship it out the door and we don't care if it works and there's no testing. Fun times. The cost is prohibitive. That's probably going to be one of the big things. Cost, yes, it can be either time or money. Usually in sort of agency environments, things like that, it's time. They just can't afford to. But all you're doing then is kidding yourself and you're going to introduce a ton of tech debt. Seen it happen everywhere. And finally, this the same thing, right? It's not a problem. It's the same as with anything. It's like, we're not running tests properly, or you've never, like backups. It's that like backup thing. It's not a problem until it's like, oh no, production is on fire and burning. I didn't expect this. Why didn't I expect this? And I look at it and go, well, I mean, you should have done, right? But we need to get out of that for a start. Don't never ever assume everything is correct all the time. The other reason why, and really it's the last reason why I don't think that you're doing PDD, could well be because you Jar Jar Binks. I really hate Jar Jar Binks. Ugh. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you. I have been Jim Seconde. Actual questions.
Thank you, James. What a performance.
I'm a trained actor that went into software development. Can you tell?
Yeah, I believe we have sufficient time for questions. And yes, please. There we go.
The bit that please make it a question and not a statement.
What about, that was a great talk.
Thank you.
What about ChatGPT? Can we put classes in there and ask it to do performance analysis on it?
Actually, one of my colleagues the other day did say, I'm writing a jest test. Check this out, Jim, and just handed it over and showed me ChatGPT. And he said, hey, ChatGPT, I wish they'd changed the letters. Write me a test. And I literally went, oh no, that's right. But my colleague Chuck over there said, here is a new API in Varnish, ChatGPT. Here is the endpoints. Please write it. And it was all wrong. So do not trust it yet. The other thing I've seen is people writing content in blogs. I've genuinely seen a blog, and I was like, I went to my manager, what's wrong with this? And he said, you know what it is, don't you? I was like, no, come on. So the answer to that is, no, we're not there yet. We can be lazy when Skynet happens and it all writes the code for us, and then we pretend and we compile and get out our swords and start blah. But for the moment, nah, I wouldn't trust it. Look up the Bing thing. Look up the Bing argument about what year it is, and you'll see we're not quite there yet. Also, the Bing thing was really aggressive as well, which kind of frightened me. I have sufficiently bamboozled everybody. There's no questions.
So what do you really hate about Jar Jar Binks?
Have you seen that? I would love to go to every conference and they say, I'm not going to ask you about your talk, but, and I'm like, stuff that matters. That's true. I'm like, I don't like him because he's a weird racist character and George Lucas forgot what made Star Wars actually good. That's a start. And also, like, have you seen the thing where he's supposedly a Sith Lord? That's really, really funny. But he's just rubbish and it's like, oh no, I can't use it, I'm clumsy. And they're going, I've waited years for this, and this is what I'm being served with. And, like, that's my problem. It can go sort of, like, further, but, it's just... Oh, and also the CGI is rubbish, isn't it? It's just like it looks like a plasticine thing gone wrong. Nah. Anyway, that's it. I mean, I don't think I've got more to... This is... like, everyone's like, this is the worst insight I've ever heard at a talk. But there you go. Those are my thoughts on Jar Jar Binks.
All right, so everybody's happy, it appears. No? All right, give another applause to James.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, big time.